There was a time when emotional intelligence was considered a soft skill, a nice quality for some leaders to have, supplementary to the real drivers of business performance. That time is over. A landmark study by TalentSmart, testing more than 1 million people, found that emotional intelligence is the single strongest predictor of professional performance, accounting for 58% of success across all job types. Google's Project Aristotle, a multi-year research initiative into what makes teams effective, found that psychological safety, which is built and sustained through emotionally intelligent leadership, was the #1 predictor of team performance. The data is definitive. Emotional intelligence is not supplementary to high-performance leadership. It is foundational to it. This video breaks down what EQ actually is, how it works in practice, and how leaders can develop it in ways that directly translate to team performance. Emotional intelligence, as defined by Daniel Goleman's foundational framework, consists of 5 domains: self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skills. Of these, self-awareness is the bedrock. It is the capacity to recognize your own emotions in real time, not in retrospect, not in a quiet journal at the end of the day, but in the moment when they are influencing your thinking and behavior. Leaders with low self-awareness are consistently surprised by the impact they have on others. Leaders with high self-awareness see themselves as others see them, which gives them the ability to manage that impact. The first milestone is developing self-awareness through structured practice. The most effective tool is not personality testing, though that has value. It is the deliberate habit of emotional annotation, noticing, labeling, and briefly examining your emotional state before high-stakes interactions. Research from Yale psychologist Marc Brackett shows that the precision of emotional labeling, not just stressed, but apprehensive about losing control of the outcome, dramatically improves the ability to regulate that emotion. The practice: before any significant conversation, meeting, or decision, pause and name what you are feeling with as much specificity as possible. Then ask, how might this emotional state affect my leadership behavior in the next hour? That question is worth more than almost any leadership development exercise currently offered in the market. The second milestone is self-regulation. And this is where leadership character is most visibly demonstrated. Self-regulation is not emotional suppression. Suppressed emotions do not disappear. They leak, often in the least appropriate moments. Self-regulation is the ability to choose a response rather than react to an impulse. 3 practices build this capability. First, the pause. Inserting even a 2-second gap between stimulus and response breaks the automatic reaction cycle. This sounds trivial until the stimulus is a direct report challenging you publicly in a meeting, or a client attacking your proposal, or an executive questioning your judgment. Second, perspective taking. In any high emotion situation, deliberately generate 2 explanations for the other person's behavior that do not center their bad intent. Usually, what looks like aggression is anxiety. What looks like resistance is fear. What looks like disrespect is often a reaction to feeling unheard. Third, the debrief. Reviewing high emotion situations after they occur, not to self-criticize, but to identify the pattern and improve the next response. The third milestone is empathy in practice, not as a feeling, but as a skill. Empathic leadership is not about agreeing with everyone or avoiding difficult conversations. It is about demonstrating that others' perspectives have been genuinely heard and considered before decisions are made. Research from Harvard Business School's Boris Groysberg and Michael Slind demonstrates that organizations led by managers with high empathy have significantly lower turnover, higher engagement, and faster problem resolution. The practical expression of empathy is 3 behaviors: asking questions that demonstrate genuine curiosity about another person's experience, listening without the visible behavior of formulating a response, and acknowledging the emotional reality of a situation before addressing its practical dimensions. The leader who says, "I can see why that feels frustrating. Let's figure out what to do about it," produces a fundamentally different response than the one who jumps immediately to solutions without acknowledging the emotional context. Here is the trap. Organizations frequently promote leaders based on their intellectual intelligence, their technical expertise, and their historical performance as individual contributors. What they produce is technically brilliant managers who are interpersonally inept, people who can solve every operational problem in the business, and who leave their teams feeling unseen, unheard, and undervalued. Technical competence and emotional intelligence are not correlated. They must both be developed, and they must both be expected. Teams led by emotionally intelligent managers report higher engagement, produce better outcomes, navigate change more effectively, and retain their best people at higher rates. Not because emotionally intelligent leadership makes work easier, but because it makes work meaningful. Your go-do. This week, before one significant leadership conversation, use emotional annotation. Name your emotional state with precision. Ask what it might cause you to do that you should not do. Enter the conversation aware of the bias it creates and see what changes. Emotional intelligence is the engine behind every other leadership skill in this series. The video on conflict resolution demonstrates this most directly. If you have not watched it yet, that is your next stop. One of the most powerful practical applications of emotional intelligence in leadership is its role in psychological safety, the team-level condition identified by Google's Project Aristotle as the most important predictor of team effectiveness, in which every member feels safe to speak up, take risks, and contribute fully without fear of humiliation or punishment. The emotionally intelligent leader consistently makes those experiences safe, and in doing so, builds the team-level condition that unlocks collective intelligence. Amy Edmondson's research at Harvard, which established the psychological safety framework, demonstrates that it requires two conditions from leadership: consistent demonstration that input is valued, and consistent protection of vulnerability. When a team member raises a concern in a meeting and is visibly heard and taken seriously rather than dismissed, every other team member updates their model of whether speaking up is safe. When a team member makes a mistake and is treated with curiosity rather than blame, the team learns that error is information rather than indictment. Each of these moments is a trust deposit made by emotionally intelligent leadership into the psychological safety account of the team. The connection between individual emotional intelligence and collective psychological safety also works in the other direction. Emotionally intelligent team members create safer environments for each other. Organizations that develop emotional intelligence across the team, not just in leadership, build the most resilient and highest performing cultures. This is why EQ development is increasingly incorporated into team development initiatives rather than being reserved for individual leadership coaching. When the entire team develops the capacity to recognize and manage emotional dynamics, both their own and each other's, the team's collective intelligence and performance capacity grows in ways that no individual capability development can produce on its own. Thanks for watching. If you found this useful, hit like and subscribe to our channel for more practical insights. And if you're ready to go further, check out the next video on your screen.